Okay, so next we're gonna start talking about how to group, lock, and hide objects. So just for ease, I'm gonna use the same kind of Illustrator document. I'm just gonna make a new artboard. So I'm gonna go over to this panel here, which is called Artboards, and I'm just going to hit this new artboard symbol at the bottom there. So I have my new artboard. So you'll see that there's also this layers panel, and if you don't have them together, you can just look for the layers panel on the right hand side here and click that on. So we have all of these items here that are on layer 1, and if we just toggle off this little eyeball icon, it disappears. And if we click on the spacing beside it, it will appear locked. So that means that we can't actually do anything on that layer. So for now, I am just going to turn that on, and I'm going to rename this as, instead of layer 1, I'm going to name this as background layer. So just background. And I'm going to add another layer here, and let's say I'm going to add this layer. I'm going to call it text layer, and I'm going to add another one that's just called images. Okay, so anything that is on the background layer should be in the background. Anything that is on the text layer should be text. Info, like that sort of thing, like this here, sale, stop, that should be on a text layer. And then also any images. So if I have any images that I'm inputting, I can have that there as well. So I'm going to go over to the background layer, and I'm going to highlight stop and sale. I'm going to copy those and delete them. And then I'm going to go over to the text layer, and I'm going to hit Command F, which is paste into place. So wherever it was originally, it copies it on, like, in place. So I'm going to go to this background layer again. I'm just going to grab a rectangle. I'm going to make that just, I don't know, a gray color. I'm going to drag this out here and just make a background. So now I have a background, but you can see that it's highlighted in red. It's not actually on the text layer. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back to my background layer. I'm going to go Command F so it pastes into place. And then I'm just going to lock it. So now anything that I do on, or try to do on this layer, it doesn't move. So I'm going to go up here to the text layer, and I'm going to make a title page. So I'm going to click, this is my title page. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to center it, and then center align it to the artboard. I'm going to make another line, but instead of going over to my type panel, I'm just going to click on that. I'm going to click on options so I get that double arrow, and I'm going to click and drag so that it basically duplicates it. I'm going to label this as assignment 1. You know, want to get some typographic hierarchy going, so I'm going to just make that larger. And then, you know, maybe I'm going to change the font instead of the regular default Marriott, I'm just going to go with Helvetica, and I'm going to change that to bold. And then this here, I'm also going to change to Helvetica. That's just going to be regular. Maybe I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to put my name. Okay. So I have that all kind of set up. Now let's say, you know, I want to maybe center this. And so if I wanted to center all this to this artboard, and I just highlighted everything, I was like, okay, great, I'm going to center it. And I go up here to my alignment panel Also, if you don't have it up here, you can also get it on the side here. I don't have it on the side, but you can go over to Window, and then you can go over to Align, and now I have that here. So let's say, I just grouped them. No, sorry, I just highlighted them all. Sorry, gave it away. I highlighted everything, and let's say, I want to center this to the page. If I just highlighted it and clicked on Align and then Vertical Align, everything aligns to each other, right? And you don't really want that because then you get text on top of each other. So I'm just going to do Command Z to undo those items. I'm going to redo that typing there. And instead, I'm going to highlight all of that, and I'm going to hit Command G, which basically groups those items together. So now I have them grouped, and now I can align that however I want. So I have it aligned, and I'm going to align it to the middle and also vertically aligned. So now that is in the middle of my page. And now, I can add images if I want. So I'm going to go over to this here. So I have my background layer, I got my title, text layer. So because I don't want to move my text layer, I can go over here and I can lock that layer, and then I can add my images. So let's say, if I go to like Unsplash or something, which is like a royalty-free resource for images. We talked a little bit about that in the copyright stuff in week 1. I'm just going to go to File and Place. Is it File Place? Yes, it is. But I have to be on the images layer. So I'm going to go File. I'm going to go Place. And I'm just going to find a photo. So I have some stock photos that I already have like on, they're from Pexels. Maybe I want to do some plants here. So I'm going to place this image here. Obviously this is very large. I'm going to want to resize it. So I'm just have it highlighted. I'm going to hit Shift and I'm going to drag from the bottom there. Now, when you're working with images in Illustrator, and let's say this is a print project, right? You want to make sure that the color profile of this image is actually like in CMYK. And most images that you get from a photographer or online, they are RGB color space. So we're going to have to go in and change that. So I have one of the images in there. I'm going to go just to my background panel because I really want to change this, gray background instead of gray. Maybe I want to do like maybe I'll do like a custom color. I'll do like a beige. So these are like the color values that you can go in and edit on your own. All right, well, I don't really like that, so I'm gonna go in and just change this. Maybe I don't have any black. Maybe it's a little bit more creamy. Or, what you can also do is, let's say you have an image here, you can always go to this eyedropper tool and you can just like grab a color within that. All right, maybe, instead of that, I want to do it a little bit lighter. All right, cool. So yeah, I have my image and I need to make that into CMYK color form, which we will be getting into that in a later class when we start talking about Photoshop. But I just wanted to show you here how you can really know if an image is in RGB or if it's in CMYK or not. So over here in the links panel on the right hand side, there is this little like chain link icon. If you click on that and you highlight the image here, so we have a little preview and we have what the name of that image is. We can see here the name, we can see the format, okay, it's a JPEG, and then we can see the color space, so RGB. So that would mean that we would need to edit that and make that into CMYK. So what I would do is I would go to this little 3 hamburger bar menu at the top right of that. I would click on that and I would go to edit in Photoshop. So if I hit that, it opens it up in Photoshop for me. You probably won't be able to see on my screen, which is okay. I'm not going to do that now because we'll get into that later on. But I can go into Photoshop and I can save it out as a CMYK image. And what I like to do is I like to keep the original image, and then I like to, at the end of it, put CMYK so that I know what image is CMYK and which one isn't. So in this case, we're just going to pretend, okay, this image is in CMYK now. I want to make sure that that's centered. All right, cool. I have that. All right, looks good. So, all right, starting to like that. Let's say I want to add like another image up here. I can do that by going to my file place. Maybe I want to add another plant. Maybe this guy here. And of course, when you go into Photoshop and you change to CMYK, it's always best practice to scale the image so that it's a lot easier to work with and so that your files aren't ballooned in size. Okay, so here's my other image, and I'm really liking that, but I feel like there's a lot of negative space here. I might just want to kind of like crop out this little plant guy here. So what I would do is I would go over to my rectangle tool. I would kind of come in, oops, just gonna change that. I would come in here and okay, I would draw a rectangle around where I kind of want it to be cropped. I would click it. And then you always want to make sure that this rectangle, whatever you're cropping, is always on the top layer of that. So, okay, kind of like that. So let's say, you're doing this and this, actually, let me walk you through first. So we have this here, we want to basically crop it. So we have the rectangle, we have the image. What we want to do now is we want to select both, and then we want to hit Shift Command 7. Wait, no. Is it? Command 7. No, it's not Shift. It's just Command 7. So what that does is it crops it into that box. I'm just going to hit Command C for a second. So let's say, I have this image is actually, above this shape that I want to crop. If I tried to do that, it wouldn't work. So if I highlighted it and I hit Command 7, I would get this error box that says can't make clipping mask. The top selected object must be a path, a compound shape, a text object, or a group of those. So the top layer always has to be whatever is in place. So there's a couple ways that we can make sure that it is on the right layer. So we're going to go over to our layers panel. We're going to use this little drop down here, and you'll see that we have our image here, which is already on our page. So I'm just toggling back and forth so that I know what is what. We have our image there. You can also like rename it. So bottom image plant. And that way you kind of know. This can be top image plant. Okay. And then here is the rectangle, right? So we can see that it's actually underneath it. So we want to, you know, put it above. So we could either select this guy here and force it to the back, but that doesn't, you know, always work out, especially if there's like multiple layers. So what I would do is I would go in here, I would really figure out what is where on your layers, and that's why it's really important to kind of name your layers and really know where everything is, especially when you have like a larger project. Maybe it's like you know, an advertising piece where you have, you know, images and layers and boxes and text, right? You want to make sure that everything is kind of labeled correctly. So what I would do actually here is I would just take this rectangle and I would drag it above it. So now what happens here is it's on top. So now I can go in and just hit Command 7 and there we go. We have our little clipping mask. Maybe I want to scale this down a little bit. All right. And then I can kind of center. No, I don't want it vertical center. I just want it horizontally centered. So there I have it. There is my title page. I could also, you know, even center it to, or sorry, not center it, align it to the left, or maybe I want to align it to the right, and maybe this here, I want to align it the other way. You know, you can play around with that with the alignment tool, but just make sure that you are kind of like naming everything correctly. So now we see here in our layers panel, clip group. So we want to actually rename that to clipped top plant. Okay, so now we have our top plant. We toggle on and off. And our bottom plant, and we can lock both of those if we just, you know, want to work on something else, you know, another layer. Let's say, you know, we want to include like a gradient layer for whatever reason. You know, maybe we do something like this. I'm going to go in and actually lock that background layer. And then you'll see here, this layer is a blue color. It's a little bit darker than the bottom background layer, but we don't want to get confused. So what I would do is I would double click on that layer. Then you get this layer option panel pop up, and you can even like change it to like orange or like one of these random colors here, or you can click on that box there and you can just like move it around. I would suggest changing it to any color except for like white or like a really like light yellow, because then it'll be really hard to see. So I'm just going to change that to orange so that I can see where I'm at. I'm going to lock my images panel as well. So now I have that there, and I'm going to want to make this like a gradient. So instead of this radial gradient, I'm going to make it a linear gradient, and I'm going to, instead of going, you know, up and down like, or sorry, left to right like that, I'm going to hit this gradient tool on the left hand side, and I'm going to get this little pop up here, and I'm actually going to move that, and I'm going to actually, you know, make that the other way. And then I'm going to just swap that. And then maybe here, you know, I make that white. But, you know, maybe I don't actually want that to be white. Maybe I just want to make the opacity 0 and have this like cool like glow at the bottom or something. So I can do that and have it like that. I could also scale it, you know. This is really handy, especially when you're like working with like various things. Like I could always like move that underneath the images layer so that I have like this like gradient effect. or like shadowing effect. You can do different things like that. And you'll see that more so like in advertisements, you know, if they have like products and stuff, they have like these like layering effects. So you can do that. And so instead of that, you know, maybe I want to make that black. Maybe I want to, I don't know, make it blue. You can play around with it and change it. But yeah, you can also like just drag out wherever you want to. So, okay, I kind of like that, but you know, maybe I want to have that underneath. All right, that's kind of cool. So yeah, you can play around with that, and you can, it's easier to move things around when they're on different layers and it's more organized. So instead of layer 4, I'm just going to put gradient here so that I know what is what. So yeah. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I hope that this was helpful. Really utilize layers, locking, hiding things, turning things on and off. It'll make your life so much easier. It'll make the people that you work with, their life so much easier. And you'll definitely appreciate it when someone else, you know, you work on someone else's files and they have everything set up properly like this as well. So yeah, next we are going to talk a little bit about the shaper tool, and then I will do a short little video about the vectors project.